Okay, let's dive right into this. Welcome to The Explainer. Have you ever found yourself, endlessly debating theoretical questions that do absolutely nothing to actually improve your day-to-day life? Well, today we're exploring a massive and honestly much-needed upgrade to one of the most popular ancient philosophies out there, Stoicism. Our source material suggests stripping away all the useless noise and transforming what can sometimes be really dense philosophy into a highly actionable everyday tool. We are talking about Pragmatic Stoicism.
So let's start with a really common experience. You discover Stoicism, right? Maybe you read a few famous quotes from Marcus Aurelius or Seneca online, and suddenly it feels like an absolute superpower. You feel completely equipped to handle stress, rude people, and just the sheer everyday chaos of modern life. But then you decide you want to dig a little deeper. You pick up a massive, dusty academic textbook on Stoicism, and within 3 chapters, you are completely lost. It begs the question, why does this incredible ancient wisdom suddenly feel like an exhausting chore?
That brings us to Section 1, the academic Stoicism trap. What started out as a highly practical toolkit for living a good life somehow morphed into a really frustrating study of ancient syllogisms. There's just this jarring disconnect between what we actually need from philosophy and the theoretical weeds we end up getting stuck in. Your expectation is, managing everyday anxiety. But the reality? You are suddenly reading these dense, exhausting arguments about whether the universe is made of literal divine fire, or you're trying to entangle ancient, wildly complex formal logic. It's incredibly frustrating, to say the least.
Now, the reason this happens is due to a phenomenon called physics envy. Modern academic philosophers are often so deeply impressed by the magnificent achievements of science that they just assume philosophy has to follow its exact lead. So they turn it into a purely theoretical pursuit instead of a practical way of life. And the tragic result here is that their highly technical, incredibly complicated work offers almost zero actual help to normal people who are just hungry for real insight into the human condition.
And the fascinating thing is, the ancients themselves actually agree with us here. The philosopher Epicurus hit the nail on the head when he said, "Vain is the word of a philosopher which does not heal any suffering of man." Think about that. If you're spending hours arguing online about whether the Stoic concept of the logos is a literal god rather than actually working on improving your own character, you are completely ignoring this warning. Your philosophy has essentially become useless.
Which leads us nicely into Section 2. Enter Pragmatism.
To really understand pragmatism, the great American philosopher William James tells this chaotic and, frankly, hilarious story. James was out on a camping trip in the mountains, and he walked back into his camp only to find his friends in a fiercely intense debate. They were arguing about this exact ridiculous scenario. Imagine a man and a squirrel are on opposite sides of a tree trunk. Every time the man tries to get a look at the squirrel darts around to the far side. The man keeps circling the tree, and the squirrel keeps perfect pace. The whole camp was intensely debating this absurd question. Did the man actually go around the squirrel?
Well, William James listened to them arguing in endless circles, thought about it for a moment, and offered a truly brilliant pivot. He just asked, does it actually matter? James pointed out that if the answer to the squirrel question changes absolutely nothing about how you live, how you choose, or how you understand your daily world, then the question itself is entirely empty.
And that right there brings us to the core definition of pragmatism. It's the simple idea that if a belief makes zero difference in action, the debate over it is completely moot. Truth is simply what works in practice. So the crucial takeaway here is this. When we take this highly practical American philosophy and combine it with ancient Stoicism, we get Pragmatic Stoicism. We basically transform a heavy, dusty, academic subject into a light, efficient, and highly durable operating system for your mind. Building this new operating system really comes down to 3 incredibly effective rules. Step 1, the filter. Step 2, discard dead bark. And step 3, ignore the sage. Let's walk through exactly how these work right now.
Section 3, Rule 1, the filter.
So, this is the very first step of our new mental operating system, and it's explicitly designed to instantly stop you from wasting your valuable time on unhelpful debates. To apply this filter, all you do is run any philosophical idea you encounter through 2 simple questions. First, is it true? And second, if it is true, does it actually matter? And here's the secret. For a pragmatic thinker, that second question is infinitely more important than the first.
Let's actually apply that filter to a massive classic Stoic debate. Free will versus determinism. The ancient Stoics loved to argue for this concept called compatibilism. They used this really complex analogy. They said, if you push a cylinder, it rolls, but if you push a cone, it spins.
The push is the external cause, but the shape is the internal nature. It's a very elegant argument, right? But wait, let's apply our filter. Does knowing this change how you live? No. Because whether our choices are predetermined by the cosmos or they are completely free, a pragmatist just wakes up and makes choices every single day anyway. You act as though you have free will regardless. The theoretical, capital T truth of the matter has literally zero bearing on your daily decisions.
Imagine a circus high-wire artist who's up there wobbling and nearly falling to the ground. Why? Because they're trying to read a textbook on rotational friction instead of just paying attention and walking the tightrope. If their own useful fiction of how balance works keeps them safe up there, who cares if their physics theory is a little flawed? The exact same goes for you. You do not need to understand the complex theoretical physics of the universe to be a resilient person.
Moving right along to Section 4, Rule 2, Dead Bark.
Traditional ancient Stoicism unfairly demanded that to understand ethics, which is, how to actually live a good life, you also had to master Stoic physics and Stoic logic. It's exhausting. But Pragmatic Stoicism gives you full permission to just drop that obsolete deadweight. Let's be real. Modern science has already proven that a lot of the ancient Stoic ideas about physics are completely wrong anyway. And while formal logic is a fine subject, you absolutely do not need to study ancient Stoic syllogisms to figure out how to be a good friend or how to manage your anger when someone cuts you off in traffic. So we keep the vital lessons on ethics and we happily discard all the outdated science and formal logic. Just toss the dead bark.
And now, Section 5, Rule 3, the mythical sage. This rule targets one of the absolute most discouraging debates in all of ancient philosophy, the argument over whether a perfectly flawless human being can even exist. The ancients used to argue this incredibly strict, rigid binary. They believed that unless you are 100% perfectly virtuous all the time, like this mythical sage, then you are entirely vicious and unhappy. But come on, that rigid binary of the flawless sage is just unhelpful academic nonsense. If someone acts wisely their entire life but makes one single mistake, are they suddenly grouped in with criminals? A pragmatist completely rejects that. We are living in pragmatic reality. We are here to make incremental progress, day by day, step by step. We are definitely not here to achieve impossible perfection.
Which brings us to our final section, Section 6, Fit for Purpose.
By applying these 3 rules, we've successfully created a customized operating system meant for beautifully limited, flawed human beings just like us. We've stripped away the unprovable metaphysics, the time-dependent cultural views of ancient Rome, and those endless academic loops. Now you might be asking, is pragmatic Stoicism a mathematically flawless theory that explains the baffling complexity of the entire cosmos? No, absolutely not. But it is the ultimate tool for human flourishing, and it is more than good enough to drastically improve your day-to-day life.
So I want to leave you with one final, provocative question to think about. Are you reading philosophy just to win debates at a dinner party? Or are you reading it to build a truly unshakable mind? Because if your ultimate goal is actually a better life, it is time to stop caring about distinctions that make no difference. It is time to stop arguing about the squirrel and start actually living. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep focusing on what works, keep building that resilience, and I will see you next time.